Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, Fantasy Champs? It is draft day.
Ooh, dude, it's draft day.
NFL draft.
Oh my gosh.
This is pre-recorded, so for us it's 3 days away. But so we don't know what happens. We don't know if there's some big trades.
Yeah.
No idea.
And people are going to look back on this podcast and be like, man, these guys are really smart, or these guys are really idiots.
Could go either way. But welcome to Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Mark Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always. Pop and Rick.
What's up?
So today we are going to do a mega rankings, rookie, wide receiver, running back, final pre-draft quarterback ranking update. This is literally just all the key tags that I put in the YouTube video. But basically, we're going to update the quarterback, wide receiver, and running back rankings for our final pre-draft rankings to prepare for this NFL draft. I was going to say this show, but that doesn't make any sense. So I was like, why would I say that? But this particular NFL draft, and
yes,
it should be an interesting night. Hopefully we get there's been some arguments and speculation about there being, a bunch of wide receivers in the first round, maybe only a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe only one. I don't know. We'll see. But these are going to be our final pre-draft quarterback, wide receiver, and running back rankings. We'll try to blow through them as fast as possible and keep the show short and concise. But anyway, before we do that, check out our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Just type our names in and you'll find us. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcast platforms, please leave a review and share this with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, click the bell for notifications, like, and comment down below any questions you may have pertaining to these rookie positions. So, lot of stuff to get to. My guy.
Yes.
So let's just jump right in. We'll start with the quarterbacks. What say you?
Okay, I think quarterbacks is probably a good place to start.
So I didn't have the original lists. I don't have them in front of me, and I'm not going to pull them up. Our original lists. We probably should have our original lists up though. So we'll just say what we have now, and I'll pull that up in a second. But so my quarterback rankings sit currently as Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell, and Matt Carroll in that order, 1 through 5. Rick's are Malik Willis, Sam Howell, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, and Matt Carroll in that order. I'll pull up the previous rankings, but Rick, give me your initial thoughts on your rankings.
I don't believe mine has changed in its fantasy purposes, and I will explain my reasoning for this. So Malik Willis is going to be one no matter what post-draft. He's my number one guy. Mm-hmm. That's not changing. 2 through 5 could change depending on draft capital, landing spot, all this stuff. I have Howell at 2 because I love how he can run. He's physical, as well as I like the player. But he would probably be 3 if it wasn't for the fantasy elements. I'd have Kenny Pickett ahead of him. Mm-hmm. I just really do like that running aspect for Howell, which I think it elevates him there. But I don't know if NFL teams agree with me. I mean, I've seen mock drafts where he goes late second round, and I've seen mock drafts where he goes late first round. So it's going to really depend with him and landing spot. There's a chance Ridder ends up being a guy who gets taken really high. And even Matt, is it Carroll or Carroll? Because I always call him Carroll. But, okay. So with Matt Carroll, I have him at 5, but let's say he goes in the top 20 of the draft, and he goes a little bit. A team with a real opportunity. I think he would move up my list. So the quarterback position for me after Willis is going to be very dependent on what happens Thursday night and Friday this weekend. But I think the list wouldn't change too much. It's just those 2 to 5 could get mixed up a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair. Your list is the same as the last one. I did, however, make a switch. I moved Desmond Ridder back up to 3. I know I think during the show I made the trade. I made the change to move Sam Howell up because Rick convinced me. So that is the only change I have. I still have Willis, Pickett, and Carroll all in the same spots. It's just a swap-a-rooski of Ridder and Howell. This is just on a sky level view after researching, looking at all these players and spending time waiting for the draft to happen, looking at mock drafts. This is a pretty weak quarterback class. And
yes,
I honestly don't think there's going to be more than 2 quarterbacks that go in the first round.
Correct.
I could be wrong about that. I
agree
literally looking at a mock draft in front of me right now that has Malik Willis 9, Kenny Pickett 15, Desmond Ridder 20 to Pittsburgh, and then that's
I can see 3, maybe.
I don't think 3 is worth it. Like I don't like.
No, I don't think it's worth it either. But I can
see, based on the rankings that I see, right after Willis and Pickett, which are going to be the guys that end up going. To me, I think those 2 guys are lock first round quarterbacks.
Right.
So, and I have a question for you in a second, but yeah, Kenny Pickett, Willis are going to be lock first round quarterbacks. I feel like after you get past that point, any quarterback that you draft after that is kind of a stretch for me. So like if Pittsburgh does draft Desmond Ridder, right? Like to me, that is reaching.
Yeah.
And you should just see what you have in
Mitch
Trubisky, or wait for that
year.
situation for the Cleveland Browns to play out, and maybe they end up having they're end up forced to cut Baker Mayfield, and you get Baker Mayfield. I'd rather take those routes, and then if your team just blows this year, and I know you don't want to do that, but just blows tank you can go get a quarterback in a much better class next year than reaching on Desmond Ridder. I think it would be smarter for the Pittsburgh Steelers to, because there's no one after them that's going to take Desmond Ridder. So I feel like wait till second round to take him. Like there's no reason why you need to take him now. So anyway, that's just on one mock draft. But I do feel like there's going to be 2 quarterbacks. I think those 2 quarterbacks are going to go Pickett or Willis and Pickett. So that's why those 2 guys are 1 and 2 for me. Just because of the sheer fact that like they're first round quarterbacks, so they're going to get a shot to start for their teams at some point, regardless of how like if Pickett ends up 15 to 20 like Mac Jones did, he'll still get a shot, but he won't, like his leash is going to be real short, like where the team would be totally willing to move on. If that's the case. But with that being said, because I think those 2 guys are going in the first round, they have the best chance to start. They are my QB1 and QB2 in Dynasty's pre-draft. Ridder is 3 because I think he's the best out of the 3 guys, which is Howell, Carroll, and Ridder. So do with that what you will. But I will ask Rick, why do you have Sam Howell so high? You have him too.
I'm a fan of his, man. I think like he had his breakout age at 19. And as a 19-year-old, as a pure freshman, he threw 3,600 yards, 38 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Mm-hmm. Like that, he had a monster year. Going into the year, he was ranked higher than all of these guys. He was a projected top 10 pick. Mm-hmm. He was a lot of people's QB1 or QB2.
Yeah.
And he obviously did not have a great year, but North Carolina did not have any talent this year around him. Like that was a bad team.
Yeah.
And there's a reason he ran a lot this year too.
It all left with what's his name?
Yeah, Javonte Williams and Michael Carter and Dwami Brown. Yep. So he lost his number 1 receiver, and then both running backs. And I think they also lost offensive line pieces. Like it was just a mess. And he did what he could. So I don't fully blame this year on him. And I've seen what he can do when he does have talent around him. The year before that, 68% completion percentage, 30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 3,500 yards passing. Mm-hmm. My bigger questions is, he didn't really develop a whole lot from year 1 to year 2, other than completion percentage. But in terms of other numbers, he didn't really improve too much. But I just like the talent. And if he gets a good landing spot and good draft capital, I think he's going to be better than some of these other guys we mentioned. But again, if he goes late second round to like the Jaguars, or just like insert a random team here where he's might not get an opportunity.
Yeah.
Then he's going to obviously fall down in my rankings. He's not someone who's clear cut my number 2 guy.
Yeah. So on this was in April 13th mock draft by Mel Kiper. So don't.
April 13th. Okay. So
yeah, take it with a grain of salt. 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. But anyway, Willis was, and I for some reason can't remember my ESPN Plus password, so I can't even get in to see Mel Kiper's current mock draft. But anyway,
that's great.
He had Willis and Kenny Pickett going in the first round. I don't necessarily disagree with you with Howell's ceiling, but some of the successful quarterbacks that we've seen that were drafted in the second round. Russ was drafted in the second round. Dak, I think, was second round.
Derek Carr was a second round pick, and then we saw Jimmy G as well. And Andy Dalton, if you count him.
Oh yeah, Andy Dalton, if you want to count him. But I feel like if you were to look at all of those guys, like obviously Russ is.
I think Russ was third round actually.
He might have,
but either way.
But yeah, he's like high. He's the highest ceiling that you're gonna get. Like Dak obviously is a top quarterback in fantasy football. So like you could get that production out of Howell or Ritter or Carroll, more specifically Howell. You could get that kind of production out of him. But if an NFL team doesn't view him as a first round pick, I don't necessarily see the situation where he would get at least an immediate.
It's an uphill battle.
It's an uphill battle for him. So that's why he pre-draft totally makes sense for you to rank him too.
Right.
If that's a guy you really do like pre-draft and you believe that, I mean, do you believe he's going to go higher than expected?
No, I don't know. I have no idea where he lands.
So just based on like my rankings, not that I want these to be accurate post-draft because everything's going to change, but I feel like Willis and Pickett are lock first rounders, and then after the draft, my after draft rankings, whoever is the third quarterback off the board, and if they happen to be a first round pick,
I think that's to be honest, if I'm betting money right now, I think Ritter's probably the third quarterback off the board.
Yeah,
I mean, how could easily be fifth out of
so
these guys?
Like imagine last year, right? And imagine the quarterbacks. Say this would have never happened, but say the top 3 guys went Zach, Trevor, and who's the third guy off the board? Trey Lance. Thank you. Yeah. And then after that, Justin Fields and Mac Jones went in the second round. Would that have changed your rankings for the quarterback position post-draft?
Yeah, it would have.
So I feel like that's what's going to happen here. Willis and Pickett will end up being first-round quarterbacks, and that value will skyrocket them into spots where it's like, okay, these guys have a chance to start. And then after that, it's Ritter, Howell, Carroll for me, and just being in that vicinity. So I totally respect your Sam Howell takes. I don't personally love him. I think there's a lot of like issues with Sam Howell, but I also think there's the same amount of issues for Carroll and Ritter. So it's like they're all very close.
That's kind of how I view it too.
So I could, like, Rick was talking about how Howell's is locked 2, and then after, or 2 to 5 is going to change for him, where Malik Willis won't. So, anyway. Let's move to another position. What do you want to do next? Running backs or wide receivers?
Oh, that's a good call. Let's do running backs so we work our way down.
Okay. So at the running back position, I'm going to do the top 5. I did make some changes. We have our top 7 or 8 here. I did make some changes to 6, 7, 8 for myself. But we don't need to talk about that. So I personally have Kenneth Walker 1, Breece Hall 2, Isaiah Spiller 3, Dameon Pierce 4, Rashad White 5, and Rick had Breece Hall 1, Kenneth Walker 2, Isaiah Spiller 3. So the same top 3, right? No, actually Kenneth Walker and Hall are switched.
Same 3 players.
Rashad White 4, and then James Cook, the dart throw, is 5. So we do have a little bit of a difference here because I have James Cook 6. I moved him up my boards to be closer to where Rick has him at 5. So our big disagreement is, I guess, Dameon Pierce and where that can go. But tell me a little about your running back rankings, any changes that you had, and
Yeah, I thought about it. So for me, obviously, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, those guys are going to be the top two, no matter where they go, almost. Yeah. I would have to take something like dramatic for one of those guys to fall out. But to me, they're the two clear best running backs. I have Hall 1, Kenneth Walker 2, but I like both guys a lot. Then I still have Isaiah Spiller 3, and I was going back and forth with that. And I know he doesn't profile well, and we talked about before our running back rookie show how we both wanted to drop him out of our top 3, and there was just like no one else. And then I kind of did more into him a little bit, and like his game speed, it's kind of like Treylon Burks, where his game speed is there. He's not overwhelmingly fast, but it's better than what he ran at the combine. Yeah. So there's a chance maybe he just had, a bad day, or his burst is better than what it is. Because on film he doesn't look bad, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and I think a landing spot will help. That was another thing we talked about. I think it was last show. Like if he goes second round to the Bills or something, boom, he's automatic RB3, and he's right behind Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall. And then I have White at 4. I think he's just a solid all around back, and then James Cook at 5. I like his pass catching ability, and I think that could translate well to the fantasy game.
Yeah, that's a fair guesstimation. It doesn't look like you changed much.
No, I added Brian Robinson, and Dameon Pierce. I like. So he was someone who I was also going back and forth with. I said this again in our running back show, but I just think like he's probably a better prospect all around than James Cook as a running back, but I don't know. He's going to have a really good landing spot and good capital. Yeah. Well, Cook, I think, could kind of succeed. Yeah. Almost no matter where he goes, just because of his role.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's fair. See, now I'm already changing my running back rankings. I'm going to change them live on the show here. I'm switching.
Oh my gosh.
I'm switching Dameon Pierce, moving him down to 5, and putting Rachaad White 4. All right, so same rankings as last time.
Isn't that what you had?
That's all I got. Yeah, it's the same exact thing I had last time. I couldn't do it.
You switched it before the show, and then just switched it right back.
So now I'm Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller, Rachaad White, and Dameon Pierce. I personally like Kenneth Walker over Breece Hall just slightly. Landing spot could change that significantly. Obviously. So I think like Rick obviously has Breece Hall 1, Kenneth Walker 2. How close is that for you?
It's not like neck and neck close, but it's like close.
Is Breece Hall your bona fide 1 at the running back position?
He is, but
okay.
If they had if Hall has a horrible landing spot and Walker has a great one, I will switch them. I'm not determined to have Hall 1.
Yeah, for me, if Kenneth Walker goes to a good landing spot and Breece Hall goes to a slightly better landing spot, I would switch them at that point. They're dead even for me. I think they both are very similar. I think the biggest question is Kenneth Walker's pass catching ability, because in college, I'm going to pull up the numbers right now. Hold on 1 second.
It wasn't good.
In college, it wasn't good. His college target share at the running back position was 5.4%, or I don't like to look at the percentages because it's different, per school, but that's
is that really like his fault too?
It's 32nd percentile.
Yeah. Oh no, it's awful, but
it's not good. But he has shown bursts of pass catching ability. So I think Breece Hall definitely has more on film.
He's just proven it more.
Yeah,
doesn't mean Kenneth Walker can't do it.
He showed more on film. Breece Hall had a 10.7% college target share, which is 80th percentile. So obviously he has more on tape to say, hey, I'm a better pass catching back. And if he mixes those two things into his game in the NFL, he's 100% going to be a better fantasy back than Kenneth Walker. Because Walker, to me, kind of looks like a J.K. Dobbins, where a lot of people were roasting J.K. Dobbins in pre-draft leading up to the draft because he couldn't pass catch, and then he gets drafted by the Ravens, and that kind of changed a little bit of his situation. But I think Kenneth Walker has pass catching in him, and I think that he's shown that he showed a little bit. If you want to go all the way back to high school, he's shown that he has the ability to pass catch and do something with it. All running backs can catch the ball. It's just what they do with it after the catch that really matters, because everything that comes out of the backfield is usually a swing or an in cut. So it's like, the route tree's small for running backs unless you put them in the slot. But I think he has a better opportunity to get more work in the NFL. It just depends on where he goes and if the team values that as an aspect of the game at the running back position. So it's very slight. I don't judge Rick for having Breece Hall 1. That's consensus right now. So it is what it is. Spiller's gross. He's the best of the not great players after that. He's had some interesting aspects to his game, but he's a 6 foot, 217 pound running back that ran a 4.69. It's really not good.
Disgusting.
He did have a decent college target share, 75th percentile. So that's not, not bad for Spiller, but it could go either way. The reason why I moved Dameon Pierce up, though, moved Dameon Pierce back over Rachaad White is listen to Rachaad White in what his college target share is. 18.9%. 98th percentile.
Oof.
He's 6 foot, 214, so he's a little tall for a running back, but he ran a 4.48. I actually kind of like him workout metrics and build-wise better than I like Spiller.
Yeah, those two, for me, I'm the same. Those guys are right there, and I think White could easily jump Spiller depending on landing spot.
Yep.
Yeah.
But his best comp in terms of build and size is David Johnson. And
that's good.
That could work out in the pro game. He has a good burst score, speed score, 40-yard dash. All those are in the 80 or higher percentile. So he does have a lot to his game that would make him the only more complete back in the NFL draft. I would say is probably Breece Hall. At least he showed everything on tape for Rachaad White. So that's why I moved him back up. I kind of like that aspect of him. Pierce is your prototypical running back. He reminds me a little bit of Mark Ingram. He's just 5'10".
That's kind of a good comp.
5'10". I'm trying to find his stupid profile and player profiler, but I can't spell his freaking
He's
name.
5'10", 224.
Thank you. 5'10", 224. Ran a 4.59, so 50th percentile in the 40-yard dash. He's mediocre when it comes to his speed, but he does have good size. 27th percentile college target share. So he does remind me. Another good comp, player profiler has him as a comp to Chris Carson.
Yeah, makes sense. That Chris Carson, Mark Ingram type player.
But I look at this situation, and I might even after the draft, I kind of like Rachaad White a little bit better than Spiller. But I like I said, it's just all landing spot. White and Spiller are close. Walker and Hall are close. I think there's a brick wall between them.
Yeah, that's where you take all the receivers and maybe even quarterbacks.
It's like Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall, tier 1.
My biggest problem with White,
tier 2, 0. Tier 67, Isaiah Spiller, Rachaad White.
And again, I think we talked about this on our running back show, but Spiller is 20 years old. He'll be 21 when the season starts.
Yep.
You know how old Rachaad White is?
How old?
He will be 24 at the end of the season.
Wow.
For a running back, you're already like...
Yeah,
he has to come right out of the gate and be good, or else he's going to be worthless.
Yeah. And that all depends on landing spot and how much people like him. So there's definitely some things there, though, because the college target share is a really big aspect to that. I'm curious, though. James Cook, I want to see what his college target share is. 66th percentile, 8.2.
So it's
interesting.
Not as much.
Not as much, no. But anyway, so those are our running backs. Do you have any more thoughts on the running back position? Because your rankings are the same. I have no questions.
No, yeah, we can move on to wide receivers.
So wide receivers are the biggest conglomerate in this draft, and I think this is the fastest we've ever done any kind of ranking show. So congratulations to us.
Yeah, they're usually like hour and a half.
So at the wide receiver position, this is probably going to be the position that is the most valuable or important in this NFL draft and to your rookie drafts, because I don't see, unless you have a top 5 pick, you're probably not going to get a successful running back. The tight end position, there's a couple of guys, but that's hit or miss anyway. The quarterback position, unless you have a top 5 pick, you're probably not going to end up with Pickett or Willis, the two guys who probably get taken in the first round. And then, the only guys left are the wide receiver position. So it's like there's no depth anywhere else besides wide receiver. And wide receiver, you could get a starter in the 3rd or 4th round this year. I mean, I got Justin Ross at 4-1 in a 10 team in our last mock draft.
Yeah, that's why in some mock drafts we've done, I went all receivers.
Yeah. So it's like, which is totally, that's not even something that, like, if you have a first round pick, that's where you're going to be. That's where the variables are going to be. Like, oh, can I draft a quarterback? Can I draft a running back? Like, there's going to be questions in that round. Once you get to the 2nd round and beyond, unless you have your heart set on a tight end like Trey McBride or somebody like that, Greg Dulcich, like, you're probably not going to take a running back unless you like the dart throw that is James Cook.
Right.
So, but the wide receiver position, probably arguably the most important in this particular year for rookie drafts. So my top 5, and Rick and I both have a 10, and I don't want us to go through all 10, but I will tell you all the way to 10, and we're going to talk about our top 5. But 1 through 10 for me: Garrett Wilson, Jamison Williams, Drake London, Treylon Burks, Chris Olave, Christian Watson, George Pickens, Sky Moore, John Mechie, Johan Dotson. Those are my top 10. Rick's top 10 is Garrett Wilson, Jamison Williams, Treylon Burks, Drake London, Chris Olave, George Pickens, Johan Dotson, Christian Watson, Sky Moore, Alec Pierce. Now, Rick, can you tell me what the changes are for you in the top 5, if you had any?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to know, it didn't seem when we did our rookie receiver show, you were super enthusiastic about Garrett Wilson, but he's still your number 1 guy. I think that's interesting. It didn't seem like you were too thrilled about him, but you never changed the course.
You heard me before the show. I almost moved Jamison Williams ahead.
Yeah, but you didn't.
Should I do it?
I think you should do it just for the takes.
I want to do it. I do like Garrett Wilson, by the way.
There you go.
I do like Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, just not for like a number 1, though. Like to be the top player. But this draft isn't really about that.
No,
it's not Jamar Chase. It's about there's 5 or 6 guys that you could look at, and all those guys could be low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2 type player for fantasy.
Yeah.
There's just some solid depth. So what was your original question? What did I change?
Yeah, what did you change?
So I originally had Treylon Burks 2, Drake London 3, Jamison Williams 4.
Mm-hmm.
I moved Jamison Williams up to 2. I'm taking the cheese just like you. I already liked him anyway. They were all in the same tier. My top 4 was 1 tier. Mm-hmm. It's still 1 tier. I don't have Garrett Wilson as my number 1 guy, like at running back, or Malik Willis is my number 1 guy at quarterback. For wide receivers, my first tier is 4 players: Garrett Wilson, Jamison Williams, Treylon Burks, Drake London. Yep. And I've changed the order up between those guys, but it's pretty much those 4 guys are the top guys for me. I also changed a little bit at the back end, but we don't really have to talk about that.
Yeah. I think for me, I had the same until I just changed Williams for Wilson live on the show. Of course, I changed it now, but anyway. I agree with Rick. There's not, like, a lot of people would say like Wilson or Williamson, Wilson or Williams, or Drake London or Treylon Burks is a bona fide number 1 guy, and there's no one close. Like, I feel like all 4 of those guys, maybe even just the top 5 that we have, including Olave,
sure,
all of those guys are the same player. Like, and the order could go any way in the NFL draft. Like last year, you had Jamar Chase.
You knew Chase was 1, and you knew Waddle would probably be 2.
Yep.
And then Smith would definitely be 3.
This one's just like a cluster. You don't know who's going to go first off the board. You don't know who's going to end up in the best landing spot. And the rankings could change just based on that landing spot alone.
Yeah. That is kind of what I like about this NFL draft is I don't feel like we really know
anything.
Like where everybody's going to go.
And I was going to say really quickly here, the April 13th Mel Kiper mock draft.
Yep.
He has just the wide receivers in the first round here. Garrett Wilson to Atlanta.
Okay.
The Jets draft Drake London 10.
Okay.
Chris Olave to the Philadelphia Eagles. They trade up.
Yuck.
Third year in a row.
I know.
New Orleans Saints draft Jamison Williams.
Okay.
Christian Watson goes to the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, that's where he goes in the first round of rookie
Hands
draft.
off. Arizona Cardinals for the third year in a row draft a wide receiver, Traylon Burks.
Yuck.
Johan Dotson to the Tennessee Titans. I usually don't like accuracy is tough to predict when it comes to the NFL draft. So mock drafts are never right most of the time. But
Right.
Mel Kiper is very connected to everything going on in the NFL. And this is a little bit of an older mock draft. But because he's connected, I feel like some of these landing spots, he's heard rumblings of these guys wanting to take some of these players. So I would say that even if he's not right about landing spot, he could be right about guys that go in the first round.
Remember, I would agree with you on that, and I would even add Peter Schrager, who last year was the one that said Kadarius Toney would be a first-round pick, and Travis Etienne.
Yep.
He's pretty connected as well. He does his mock drafts purely based on what he hears, and not what he thinks.
Where do I find his mock draft?
He's NFL.com.
Because I'll go off Schrager the whole time.
So let's see. He has in his last mock draft, which was the 19th, he had Jamison Williams at 10. Ago? Yeah, Jamison Williams at 10 to the Jets. Garrett Wilson at 11 to the Washington Commanders. Yuck. Drake London 15 Eagles. Chris Olave 16 Saints. Traylon Burks 17 Chargers. Interesting. Johan Dotson 22 Packers. So again, a lot of receivers. He has Breece Hall going in the first round to the Bills. So I like that. And then that ends the receiver.
He's got the Pats taking Trent McDuffie.
I don't mind that.
No, it's not a bad pick. It's just I want a receiver.
Yeah, well, I've given up on. I don't think we're taking.
Anyway, yeah. So I mean, I think there's different like Dotson if he ends up going to the Green Bay Packers in the first round.
Amazing.
Fly up boards. Like he would end up in the top 5. But I feel like regardless of we have Dotson in the first round, Chris Olave, Drake London,
still
Garrett
a lot
Wilson,
of guys.
Jamison Williams. Yeah, I mean the top 5 that we have are in the first
all
round.
first round picks.
Yeah, all first round picks. So like I said, it really could change based on landing spot and based on where guys go, and based on how much like pre-draft in, obviously it's draft day, when we launch this podcast, but like when you're talking about as you get later in the week, are people starting to feel the squeeze? Like, does a team like Philly, are they just obsessed with Jamison Williams to the point where they're like, all right, we got to go get this guy, and they trade up into the first, into the top 10 even to go draft him. That's when things start getting a little crazy because people get a little frantic and then wide receivers start dropping. So if he says six wide receivers go in the first round, I mean, I'll take his word for it. But anyway, for me, really depends on landing spot for all of these guys. And I think like if Wilson goes to the best landing spot, he'll surpass Jamison Williams for me. I think Jamison Williams is a dynamic wide receiver, and he does a lot of things very well. So, I mean, just based on his like physical build, he's not a super small, like he's not big when it comes to muscle mass and stuff like that, but he's 6'1", 180 pounds, and he ran a 4.3.
Yeah.
He almost ran a sub 4.3. So like,
it's ridiculous.
I feel like to me, he's extremely fast and he's tall. And if he adds a little bit of muscle mass, I mean, this guy is going to be insane to deal with. So just that alone gets me excited about Jamison Williams. And
it's not just that. I was going to say, he's been compared because he's Alabama fast receiver. So he's obviously just people are going to compare him to Henry Ruggs and Jalen Waddle. Mm-hmm. He's definitely more like Waddle than he is Ruggs.
Yeah.
Like he can do a lot of things. He's not just Ruggs who would just run straight as fast as he could and go get him the ball.
Right.
He has a lot of receiving talent as well, just like Waddle did. But go ahead.
Yeah. So that's why I have him over Garrett Wilson. But
yeah.
I like Drake London. His ability as a receiver is ridiculous. He's not fast, so makes me kind of nervous from that aspect of it. But he has like ridiculous talent when it comes to catching the ball and his route running, and I think he can make up for his lack of speed doing those things. Treylon Burks kind of in the same department. Doesn't have a whole ton of speed. He's faster on tape. But yeah, and then Olave is just kind of. I'm not in love with Olave. Like, I don't mind him.
Yeah, I like Olave. I mean, he's a really good route runner. He's faster than people give him credit for. Obviously, he showed it at the combine, but before the combine, people said he wasn't that fast. He's just not like, he's not someone who you're going to give a screen to and he's going to make 7 people miss and then run for a touchdown. He's more of like a reliable receiver who's going to make the catches up the middle. He's a good overall receiver. There's not many things he doesn't do well in terms of route running. Like, he can go deep, short, intermediate passes, all of the above. He's going to make he's not going to drop the ball a lot. So he's really just a solid all-around receiver. He might not be as flashy as Garrett Wilson or Jamison Williams or as big as Drake London, obviously, or flashy as Treylon Burks, but he's a reliable receiver.
Yeah. It's funny because if he's like, how successful can he be as a fantasy wide receiver as just a reliable receiver?
Yeah, that's why my comp for him is Tyler Lockett. So take that with what you want. Lockett can be top 20 guy. I think he finished top 15 before. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's possible. You're just not getting Jamar Chase when you're drafting Chris Olave. Just know that. And
I do think there's guys that are like, I think he's one of those top 5 receivers, and I think if a landing spot goes well for him, I think he has a good enough skill set that he could ascend into the conversation of a wide receiver one. But I feel like out of all the guys that I have ranked here, he has probably the 5th best shot of doing that. So
sure, but he might have the highest floor or one of the highest floors as well.
Yeah, that's fair. And then after that, obviously we're not going to talk a ton about it, but I was curious because I have Christian Watson 6 and Rick has Christian Watson 8. You know me with my big receivers.
Yeah, he profiles really well, and I've said this before. Mm-hmm. Obviously, super fast, athletic freak, and depending on where he goes, could definitely move ahead of.
Like if that Christian Watson take from that other mock draft happens,
right,
I'll rip my drawers.
So my tiers, as I said, tier 1 for me is the top 4.
Yep.
Tier 2, I was tempted to put Olave in a tier himself, and then tier 3, Pickens, Dotson, Watson. Safe. It's probably what I would do, but I think I'm even tempted to put Olave in that same tier. And if Watson gets that scenario, let's say he goes in the first round of the Packers, he's instantly my wide receiver 5, and jumps all those guys.
I would say for me,
maybe even who knows.
Right. I would say for me, like if I had to tier these out, because I really do feel like the top 5, like I think there is some difference between Williams and Wilson and the other 3.
Sure.
But I feel like if any one of these guys ends up in a better landing spot than the other, like last year, Devonta Smith was everyone's wide receiver 1, and then he went to Philly, and it was like, oh well, he's got a good landing spot. And it's not that he sucks; it's just Philly's not really a passing football team. You could kind of see that coming from a million miles away that he wasn't going to be really great at least year 1. But like for me, I feel like it does depend on landing spot for all of these guys. Like if they land in a really good location,
who's going back to Philly?
Say it again.
Who's going to Philly?
Who's going to Philly? That's the real question. But I think that if I had to make tiers for this, it would probably be Williams and Wilson 1, tier 1. Tier 2 would be London, Treylon, and Chris Olave. And then from there, probably tier 3, Watson, Pickens, Moore. And after that, it's just kind of a mismatch of guys. So,
yeah.
But those are all our rankings. It only took us 40 minutes.
That's surprising.
Very, very surprising. I'm not going to list them all. I ain't got time to read all these off. It don't make sense.
Yeah, there's too many guys.
But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this show. Hopefully you enjoyed the NFL draft.
I certainly hope I do.
We will do rookie mock drafts post-draft and give you some analysis there. And there's probably plenty of analysis, but we'll see you later, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.